Welcome to the Developing Dads podcast, episode number 92. Hope you're having a lovely morning, afternoon or evening. Right now it's Wednesday evening where we are. I don't know, Gordon, has Storm Agnes hit you yet? Is that a thing for you English folk?
I bloody love your intros, Neil. It's like, this one in particular was quite like, 1920s radio. Where everyone's sort of very,
intros.
which is everyone's very prim, proper and nice, Hello, good evening. It is, unfortunately, we're about to have a storm. And to answer your question, Neil, no, the storm Agnes has not hit London. I actually don't think it's going to hit London. I think it's kind of going up north, or it's kind of sitting west across Scotland-y kind of bit. I don't need a weather issue to affect anything that happens tomorrow afternoon. Okay, I don't need that. Okay, yeah. So I think I'd prefer to kind of accept that there might be something going on, but let's brush over it. And Gordon's fingers in the ears, just going la 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 la.
Cool. Sounds good. So in this topic, we're chatting about, and it was kind of touched on in the last podcast where we were just randomly chatting about things, and we're like, oh, this could be made into an episode. So it's a working title, but like what dads carry on their shoulders during the first few years, and I think it goes a bit unrecognised, and it's not really talked about that much in terms of the burden that's on us as new dads. Anyway, like we always do in this podcast, we check in with each other. It's been a few days since we last spoke. How are you, Gordon? What have you been up to?
I'm good, Neil. I'm really good. There's Laura's not in the house, so I can talk about it on the podcast, and also it will be done by then. So everyone who listens on Monday morning will get an exclusive first update of what we're actually doing. And I'm sure of the 3.5 listeners, they've been waiting weeks to find out what's going on, what's happening. 3.5 of those listeners, at least 1 or 2 of them are probably my friends who already know what's happening. So maybe it's for anyone who's listening for Neil. But I'll save that for just a minute. I've had a good week. It's trying to, like, the thing I'm struggling with the past 2 weeks, and it will be next week as well. So for 3 weeks, I'm going to be struggling to balance, childcare duties, like dad life basically, and running a business. I think I've managed to weather it and keep it kind of going, but equally it's still been kind of, I feel guilty neglecting my work, but at the same time I'm really cherishing the bonding time that I get with Olivia, because I had 2 days last week and we had that amazing time that I talked about at the Natural History Museum, and then this week I wouldn't say it was quite as extravagant, but at the same time it's still fucking amazing. Like, to be able to spend time with my daughter like that and know that it's unfortunately that it's a rare thing, but it has such a profound effect on her long-term development. From a podcast I was listening to today, I'll share it with you, Neil. It's about Chris Williamson's father's podcast. Very, very, very good to listen to. And it just, all that feels really nice. So that's been like a highlight of this week overall. And then we had a busy weekend at Laura's grandparents. So that was nice to see them. And basically just, it's Olivia's great-grandparents, right? So they get to hang out with her, and she hangs out with them, and get pictures taken and memories made and all that kind of stuff. But it has been quite hectic in the sense that a lot of doing and talking and seeing and saying and organising and whatnot. And also we've got a 100th episode coming up in about 8 weeks' time, because we're on 92 and we're getting there. And I've been procrastinating on asking someone to come on it. So all goes well. Hopefully that should actually come to fruition at some point soon, and we'll get our 100th recorded. And I think it'll be a fun guest, an interesting guest. Not one many people would have heard of necessarily, but he commands a space campaigning for men's rights and for facts and figures and things to be properly presented and what's happening. And I find him really fascinating, really interesting. I think we'll have a wonderful conversation about sort of fatherhood and parenting and dad life and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, okay, to the surprise that everyone's been, waiting to hear about. So, this story, is it alright to talk about the story, Neil? Do you mind before we delve into your...
No, go ahead, have your 5 minutes of fame.
Okay, great. It's maybe something as well to talk to you about, is like organising experiences Not for yourself, but for someone else. Because it feels pretty good, doesn't it? It's good. It's fun. Anyway, so this started back in March this year, where Laura had remarked on how she would love to go and see Adele. Now, if anyone doesn't know who Adele is, she's basically just one of the biggest global pop stars in the world. Now and probably forever. She's had huge hit albums and songs and stuff like that. Anyway, she remarked on it. I thought, you know what? Let me find out if I can get tickets in for Adele. Knowing that most of these things, you basically just don't get them, right?
Yeah,
so I signed up to the
draw.
Yeah, so I signed up to the newsletter thing, which allowed you to apply, basically, for a date that it would send you to then apply again. So you had to apply for 5. So I signed up to the newsletter. I get through to the application section, which you apply for 5 dates. And I kind of centered them a bit around her birthday kind of thing, just to see if that would work. And then, a few weeks later, I get an email saying, I've won the lottery. So when you apply for those 5 spaces, you essentially just go into a pool of like people who've applied, and then you get just selected and picked, right? So I got picked. Mental. I also got picked on Laura's birthday, the 29th of September. So this Friday.
Even more mental.
Yeah, so it's brilliant. So then what you get is like you basically get a code to log into a website at a certain time to have the chance of purchasing a ticket. Right? So I did that. Got there.
So you haven't even so you win the lottery and you haven't even got your
You don't
ticket.
have a ticket.
You're
No.
not guaranteed it.
Nope.
Wow.
So I get in, I buy the tickets. I couldn't buy the best ones because the front row was like a couple of $1,000 a ticket. Even like anywhere close to the front was like $1,000 plus. So I got they're kind of high up. I know equally like flights to Vegas are not cheap and staying there's not cheap and the whole trip's not cheap. So it's like, where do I try and, not spend 10 grand? So basically I got 2 tickets. It's a small, she only does small venues. So there's only 4,000 people in the venue. So it's really it's certainly intimate for a size of her. Like if you go to an Ed Sheeran concert, there's 100,000 people there, 50,000 people there. So it's really amazing. It's in Vegas, so if that wasn't clear,
you kind of forgot about that.
So yeah, so we're going to Vegas. So I got the tickets. There was then also a coordination issue where Olivia obviously is our light of our eye, our world, and Laura's mum and dad are in Cyprus right now on holiday and don't get back until Friday evening / Saturday morning. So we had a childcare issue. We've had friends jump in to help, Tony and Lauren. So they're taking Olivia. Olivia's never stayed at anyone else's house beyond grandparents or our house, so all a bit kind of coordinated nuts. But they've been absolute champions, and they're taking her for 2 nights. She's at nursery the other 2 days, so it's not like they have to look after them all day. It's just evening times. And they've been absolute champions, so I can't thank them enough. And then Laura doesn't have a clue what she's doing. So I guess that's the story. Yeah, she has no idea. I've managed to keep this a secret for the best part of 6, 7, 8 months, and yeah, she's off to. She thinks she's going to Portugal, which I find quite funny.
Yeah, it's a bit different to Portugal, that's for sure.
So yeah, so she still doesn't know.
No, it's
awesome. Going to find out at the airport tomorrow. I've bought 2 cards. One card has Elvis on the front of it and a little note from me because I'm the birthday present from me is us going to Vegas. And then so Elvis, do you know why I've chosen Elvis, Neil? Any ideas?
He's famous in Vegas.
Kind of, I guess, but he's got a famous song called Viva Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. Yeah, so hopefully it ties in there. I've had to put in the card, P.S. we're not going to Graceland. And then the second card I managed to find like an Etsy online shop thing that what they do is they print lyrics of songs in a circle on the front of the card. So I've taken one of Adele's.
Gone all out, mate.
Oh, mate, yeah, I've gone full in. So the Adele, so it's got lyrics with it doesn't tell whose song it is. So then that card's from Olivia. So basically, the first one I'll tell her where she's going, and the second one I'll tell her what she's doing. And I'll give it to that at the airport, and I'll film it, and I think it'd be fun. It'd be cool.
Nice. So what time's your flight?
4:30 tomorrow. So 4:30 p.m. So there's no rush, not much thing. But then the crazy thing is we arrive 7 p.m. Vegas time, 2 a.m. UK time.
And then when's the deal?
Friday night, 8
Friday
p.m.
night.
So
'Cause
Friday
we've got
night
a bit
8
of time
p.m.
to come to.
will be 4 a.m. UK time. So I'm just, it's going to be one of those where we're going to just have to like matchstick eyes, just coffee up, go for it, live up the weekend. Do you want to know what we're getting up to? I don't know if this is actually interesting, but it might be.
We could do a follow up, a bit of a teaser for the next episode.
All right. So I have got other things
fill in.
planned for the thing, but the main event is flying to Vegas and going to see Adele, basically, which I'm
Nice.
super pumped about. So if Laura doesn't enjoy it, you'll at least get a nice podcast out of me enjoying myself.
Yeah, that's cool. I was just trying to think. Like, the last thing I surprised Rebecca with that she had no idea was the engagement. And I was like,
You need to step your game up, Neil.
I know. I mean, I've done little things like hotel stays and that kind of thing, which has been pretty nice, but nothing abroad.
And, there was I've been reading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations book. Very very alpha thing to do. And I think one of the quotes that I remember from it is, we tend to live in fear in our imagination, or something like that, where you kind of, you don't do something because you're thinking about it, rather than it being fearful doing the thing. And I equally think on the flip side of that, you also live in such an amazing kind of like brain space when you're organizing something for someone else and it's a surprise. Like the fantasy and the imagination in my mind, although the reality is definitely going to be incredible and I can't wait, but it's like kind of this odd feeling of amazingness that I just can't wait
process
to.
of it all.
Yeah, so I guess you're not just doing it for them; you're also doing it for yourself, because it's really fun to do.
Feels good.
Yeah, it does, and it's like the Bill Perkins thing, because that was also the consideration, right? I can sell these Adele tickets for a few £1,000s, and that would pay for the trip and a bit more. But Bill Perkins thing, right? It's die with zero and live experience.
Yeah.
So I think I'd rather have spent the money than collected the money going to see Adele in Vegas.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you look back and you're 70 years old, you're probably going to think, "Oh, I wish I did that."
Yeah, exactly. I absolutely, in my mind is, when I'm 80 and I'm on my deathbed, this is one of the things I'm going to remember. Like, do you remember that trip we went to Vegas to see Adele, and you had no idea we were doing it? It also feels funny talking about it before it's done, and Laura's not here and it's on a podcast. That's quite funny. But apart from that, Neil, that's been pretty much my week. I'm also in the process of sort of confirming probably the biggest client that I've managed to sign, which feels pretty nice as part of my business.
So the one we were chatting about offline.
They've said yes, which feels nice.
Wow.
So we're just finalising a couple of bits, and we'll probably get started in around October. So yeah, that's cool. That's about it, Neil. How about you? You off anywhere nice?
Definitely can't top that. How's my week been? I think it's only probably been a weekend that we last spoke, but I'm in a pretty good mood. Yeah, pretty chilled. No fires. Talking about surprises, actually. Rebecca's got a surprise for me this weekend. We're going away with a few friends. Not abroad, but TBC.
Where's the kids going, man?
Grandparents.
Wow.
So yeah, that'd be nice. And then there's talk about going out for a nice meal and drinks, and so that'd be good fun. But the boys.
I did forget about one thing. I'm really sorry, Neil. I did forget about one thing. It's kind of major. I had my first 2 fillings.
Oh yeah, I remember you went to the dentist for like the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Man's bought some floss. He needs to sort his teeth out.
I floss every night.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well done, you. Well, I've got 2 fillings. You got fillings though.
Yeah, I've got 3. I'll lose count because they fall out after like 10 years. So I think I've got 3.
They? Oh, so I've got to fucking pay for it again.
Yeah, they don't last forever, mate.
My God, it was like £300. Wow. Right, man, better get saving for those. Some peas for those things.
White ones, did you?
Yeah, of course I did. Like nobody wants metal on their mouth. You got metal ones?
No. All white.
Do they like sit in your mouth? Can you see them? Are they? Can you see them? I can't see them.
No.
Oh. Yeah, no, I went white ones.
Yeah. So took the boys on. The boys are really getting into their biking, mountain biking. And another dad, he's heavily invested in mountain bikes. I mean, the bike he rides is probably a similar value to a small car.
What's this for? Sorry.
I'm just telling you my weekend. What
Oh,
I'm
right.
up
So
to.
he'd invested in a bike that's about the price of a small car, and you
Yeah.
went biking with the boys. Right. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm catching up now.
And it was the first kind of mountain bike trail. I kind of wondered how the boys would get on, kind of some uphill, some downhill, but they absolutely loved it. Like, they couldn't get enough of it. They kept on wanting to go around again the loop, and going as fast as they can down hills. So, like, just seeing the 5-year-olds in small bikes, just tackle the kind of we're out for 3 hours, and did like 3.5, 4 miles.
Did they pass out in the car afterwards?
Yeah, they were knackered and stopped for snacks and stuff. But yeah, it was cool. It's cool to have a sport that I enjoy. I enjoy going in the hills and stuff. But then I can also tag along. So that was
It's
nice.
also nuts. It's also nuts when you're a kid, right? Where, as an adult, you stop because you're tired, and you don't want to get too more tired. However, when you're a kid, you literally go to the point where you pass out in the car, right?
Yeah,
Because
your
as soon
batteries
as they
run
would
out.
have sat down, they would just gone like that. Oh my god, I'm so tired. But they wouldn't have said that during the time of them doing it. They would just work themselves to the point where they had zero capacity left.
Yeah, yeah. And like you can tell because they just get like long eyes, stares, and get really grumpy. There's like a really grumpy phase of it. But yeah, they had a great time.
Nice.
And rest of my weekend, I think, was just pretty chilled. Did the park run again. That's the fourth week in a row we've done the junior park run. My kids are getting well into their sports. So 2.5k on a Sunday morning. It's a bit of a ritual now. Yeah.
Sounds good, mate. Sounds wholesome. Like,
Just,
no more do you need in your life.
Well, exactly. Vegas would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah. I think, part of that is, like, I was sat having my haircut today, holiday haircut, and the guy was like, so, you going away again, or you doing anything this weekend or whatever else? I was like, oh, I'm going to Vegas. He's like, what? Wow. And then the guy in the chair next to me was like, Vegas, oh man, I'm so jealous. And I was like, yeah, we're gonna go and see Adele for my wife's birthday. And he was like, oh, Vegas and Adele. Wow, that sounds amazing. So it's kind of fun, yeah. Neil.
Yeah, let's not look at the weather.
But I guess I was thinking about this. One of my dreams, like I do have a dream of this, is to do a paddock pass for F1. They're stupid money. Like, there are a few £1,000 to be able to go and do one of these tickets. And you can't just really go yourself, can you? You're going to have to go with someone else. So you'd have to buy 2 tickets. And, it's near enough a 5-figure sum. And when you actually think about it, if you had a lofty dream like that, you can just break it down into like saving per month, right? So if you put away
Yeah.
£100, £200 a month, if that's something you wanted to do, or if you wanted to surprise Rebecca, you just have to like even if it was expensive, you just have to like kind of whittle away
Break it down.
something.
Yeah,
So it's like before she turns 40 or whatever else, then something like that would be very cool. So I guess that's the way I would look at it for that kind of thing. It's just that if you're not necessarily going to do it now, there's no. I think because sometimes we just forget we don't pre-plan like big event stuff really too much. It might be a few months rather than a few years.
A few years, yeah. I know what you mean.
Especially if it's a big one. Especially if you're going to go and take her to the Maldives or I don't know, something silly like that. Yeah.
I mean, listen to this. You listen to the podcast, so you know James, don't you? You've met him once. So his wife messaged us a few weeks ago now, or a month ago now, and was like, I'm planning James's 40th birthday. And James turns 40 next year.
Wow.
And like, this was we kind of discussed it face to face as well. And they're like, would you mind putting away £25 a month into a pot and we can all go away somewhere nice for James's 40th? So absolutely, yeah, we did that. And like £25, you don't really notice it. But she's being very organised. She's got like a group of 15 of them all put in £25 and they've reserved a massive mansion, hot tub, chef. It sounds like a sick weekend.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do, and I think I haven't started that pot for my paddock pass, but I'm thinking about it for my my 40th. Right, that would blow my mind. It's So anyway,
I've been looking at them because one of the entrepreneurs I follow who had a successful exit, kind of a Edinburgh-based guy, he he was doing the Formula One experience, and he was getting flown in a helicopter and stuff. And I looked at the price of the tickets for that kind of experience of like helicopter and all that kind of stuff, and it's just mad.
Yeah, man. It's like the paddock pass to do like Monaco. I think it's $5,500 a ticket.
Mad.
Like it's a lot. Like it's so much money, But it's kind of a bit like, would I buy a Rolex or would I buy an F1 paddock pass for a weekend? I'd get the F1 paddock pass every single time.
Yeah.
Like it's just genuinely the one thing that I would say I would save up for 4 years to go and do, just because it would be amazing. But the only problem is you just can't. How can you go and do it on your own? You'd have to go and do it with a friend. So it's kind of like you have to save up 10 grand and spend 5 grand on a friend who really likes F1. And I'd love to take Laura, but I'm not sure Laura would be so into F1 that she'd, spend 5 grand on a ticket, right?
Yeah.
So man needs to make more bank. That's pretty much what I need to do.
Well, this new client might help you a bit. Help you
And it's and that side of things growing. I had my VAT number come through this week as well, so that's all. It's all going in a certain direction, I guess. So that feels pretty good. Anyway, sorry, you were telling us about your weekend. Was that it? So you finished with your biking?
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, mate, it sounds bloody wholesome. Like I think in that vein as well, it's like you don't need to go to Vegas to have a good life.
Yeah, I know. I'm running park runs and mountain biking with the boys.
It's just that is good. And like last week, I was talking about me going to the Natural History Museum with Olivia, and it's like it's just the two of us, and she's running around like a nut job, enjoying a free museum in London. Like she just absolutely loved it. So it's not like you need some sort of special thing to do, because you got the Natural History Museum in Edinburgh as well. That's really nice.
Yeah, I've been a few times. It's good. So we dive into this week's topic. I can't remember how it kind of came about. We were just chatting about the sort of hard times maybe dads go through, and I don't know how it was raised, but I thought it was quite an interesting one because I never really thought about it or broke it down. And when I was writing the notes for this, I was like, it's been 8 years of like, I don't know, carrying the family. And when I mean carrying the family, I more in a financial term. Obviously, Rebecca's been helping with the childcare and the housework and kind of keeping the roof over her head maintained and clean and the kids happy and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess traditionally for guys, they go to work, they pay the bills, and the mother stays at home. And I don't think there's that much recognition. Like we've always said this in the podcast, there's lots of support for a woman. The the house health visitors that come in, always say, oh, how are you doing? How's mum? But there's never kind of a challenge over to the dad saying, how are you doing?
Yeah, it's not necessarily equal. I mean, it's hard to say because it's not like I'm saying there shouldn't be a focus on mum.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even to some extent, like there shouldn't be a focus. There should be a focus on mum because there's also a physical like treatment thing that has to go through to make sure that she's healthy and safe and recovering. But it's not like it's even close to 20%. It's not like the health visitor comes over and teaches you as a man, as a father, how to be a father, or asks you questions about certain things that you're doing as a father and how are you bonding with it. Like the health visitor doesn't say to me, how are you bonding with Olivia?
Yeah.
Are you reading? Here's some ideas on, you may not be able to bond like Laura can, where she has breastfeeding and she obviously gave birth to her and the hormones that she's changing and experiencing. Here are the things that you might experience. Here are the ways in which you can be able to bond with your daughter that makes you feel much more useful and capable, right? I didn't experience that. None whatsoever. There was a little question about how we're getting on as a couple and how we're getting and bits and pieces like that, but there was nothing specifically focused on the dad, right? And you kind of just have to go with it. And that extends all the way through the maternity care, through from her giving birth, through to even post. Like there's not really much asked about me or dad or what's going on. It's just kind of like, it's all naturally the mum. It's not naturally the dad.
Yeah, which I think, I don't know, there should be some kind of change change to that, and what that change is, I don't know. And you're right. There's probably a balance of more focus in the early days needs to be on the mum, because there's the physical element and the mental health element.
Yes
and
and
stuff.
no. Yeah, yes and no. I'm like, I still think you can give support equally to both parents.
Yeah, but I guess I'm saying I understand why it's more towards the mum in the early stages.
But that's also I think that's a serious problem, because it's just because it's obvious. Like it goes back to that kind of like, the acceptance in our society of things like mental health and not just broken bones. You shouldn't have to snap your leg to get treatment. You shouldn't have to just sit in a corner on your own quietly and have no one help you, because it's in your mind and not in your bones or whatever else. I feel like it's one of the same things when it comes to pregnancy. It's like, just because there's a bump, it doesn't mean that, just because there's not a bump, it doesn't mean they're not going through things. Like podcast I was listening to, they were talking about the things like the reduction in testosterone causes a man to be much more emotional when a child is born. So they are susceptible to things like postnatal depression. So if a woman can suffer from postnatal depression, a man can still suffer from postnatal depression. And I have absolutely no idea what the symptoms are of postnatal depression. None. Not a clue. Do you know what they are?
No. I could guess them,
No.
but not.
Yeah. But you're told in pamphlets and stuff to look for postnatal depression in mums.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a swing at this, but it's not to say that we have to take away from the mum's care. Absolutely not. Like, that's currently in this country, I think the care for mums is very good.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to dads, it's completely and utterly neglected.
Yeah. Especially when I've been through it 3 times, or twice, but twins. There's definitely nothing. And even like we stayed in the hospital for the twins for a week. Rebecca and I both slept there. And it was always like, I don't know, the medical team would come in the morning and do the checks. Always on Rebecca. Always like, how you doing? How you feeling? Did you get much sleep? I was just sitting there in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's terrible, too. Neil. Like, why is it not a case of how you feeling? Is everything okay? Is anything we can can I get you a cup of tea or something? Because like I find myself like having to take myself away and cried because it was so hard for me to sort of watch Laura in so much pain and discomfort. But there's no one there saying, are you okay? Is everything all right? She's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Just keep doing what you're doing. But anyway, it just kind of gets me annoyed a little bit because it's just so unnecessary, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's a burden. That's a burden as well, right? Is that period when the little one's born, you feel a sense of like uselessness. And there's very little support that I remember in that period. I remember voicing it, but to not many people. But equally, they didn't really have much to say. They were just kind of like, well, what can you do? And I think that's because we haven't really communicated any practical steps for dads to feel useful in the time, between the first sort of 6 to 12 months, right? Where there's lots of breastfeeding, there's lots of kind of like need for mum to be around, that kind of thing. But there's equally as much that you can burden as a dad. You can take on much more of the things but you don't realize that. You don't realize that you can have them sleep on your chest. You can read stories to them. You can play with them. You can talk to them. You can carry them around. Like, there's lots of things that you can do that create bonding, just like like your mom's bonding, right? So I think there's a burden where I felt useless anyway, certainly for a long time.
I guess, what is the answer? Just more men speak up.
It's education, Neil. I think it's an acceptance that men are part of the
whole process.
The sphere. Yeah, the whole sphere, the whole process of giving birth, getting pregnant, giving birth, and then also antenatal after birth. Like they play a huge role, and children that have a good relationship with their father perform better in almost all areas of their life. if they've had a good bond. And I think it's just then communication, right? It's talking, it's getting training to the health professionals to be able to communicate those things to dads and help them realize that they're super important in the whole process. I think anyway, but you know.
So yeah, that's kind of the first, I guess, 3 months probably covered. Did you feel it got better, the burden, or worse? Did you feel as you're going through into the kind of 6 to 12 month mark?
Nah, it took me. I think it's now 2 years in, and only over the past 3 to 6 months have I felt probably like I'm capable.
Capable of looking after your daughter.
All of that, yeah, capable. I feel confident with it. I feel like she responds to it, and I can understand her emotional needs, her physical needs. It's taken a little while, but now I feel it. So I think even 3 to 6 months, like I still didn't feel like it. I feel I was like I just kind of, because I couldn't do the kid parent thing, or I didn't feel like I was useful at it, I would like plow myself into work and just work harder. So that was kind of like a thing where I was like,
coping mechanism.
If I can do anything, I can, I can look after the family and feed them and give them food and earn money to be able to do stuff, right? That was kind of my way of doing it all.
Yeah, I get basically. That. One thing I kind of struggled with was that dual role of ensuring work's going well. You're not going to get fired. You're performing. You're going to get that pay rise or that promotion, but as well as keeping your wife happy, as well as keeping your daughter or kids happy. Just all that, I felt it was quite a lot. Like almost like you had two lives. One at work that you had to perform at a high standard, no matter how much sleep you've had, and then one at home where you had to just keep shit together and keep going. That was tough.
And keep shit together when you have no idea what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
Like you've neither of us have ever looked after or never had to keep a human alive before we'd had a kid, and then suddenly you're like, "Here's a kid, keep it alive. Don't get arrested. Yeah. Don't get social services involved." Like, it's not like you can't keep yourself alive, but then it's like having that external responsibility is just ridiculous. It's mental. And then you got to go to work on 4 hours sleep.
Yeah, Matt Diavella, kind of a YouTuber that Gordon and I both watch. He did a really good video of like comparing his sleep data from a year before having kids, this first kid, and then a year after it. And it's fascinating. Like the quality is just dipped drastically, and I think that's another thing that kind of goes unnoticed with new parents. And even now, my kids can have a bad night, and it's me that's woken up, or both of us are woken up. And like just with kids, like the sleep thing impacts your whole life. If you don't get much sleep, you're just like a walking zombie and trying to survive, trying to make decisions that are going to help a company or work with a customer or what's for dinner. Just, yeah.
I also felt, there's also something I felt there was a sense of guilt as well. I felt a sense of guilt because selfishly I wanted my wife's attention.
Yeah.
I wanted, there was kind of like that bullshit thing of like the grass is greener on the other side. But it's kind of like I felt in a sense of guilt because I was like, I want the old days back of it was, we're not tired and we're not skint and we're not stressed and
fighting
we're not
over this silliest things because you're exhausted.
Yeah, fighting over silly things and not being able to do stuff together and really being like curtailing our relationship to some degree. And it certainly didn't build into resentment, but it was kind of like this weird loop of I want to be selfish and have my wife back, but at the same time I feel guilty because it's not realistic. We're not in the same, like the relationship is never the same after children.
Yeah, new chapter.
It's a new chapter. It's a new thing, and you really have to adjust to that. And I found it. I think I felt like that was a difficult thing to carry certainly for the first few months, and certainly going into the sort of the first year aspect of things. But now that Olivia is much more capable and much more a human rather than a little potato, she's able to go off to friends' houses and stay over there, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I feel much better now than I did then.
Yeah, I've always said that, like, after the 3-year mark of kids, they're kind of very much self-sufficient. They can make a snack. They can go to the toilet themselves. They're approaching nursery or approaching primary one in some cases when they turn 4, and life just definitely gets easier. But I wouldn't say does the burden change. The burden changes on the dad, but I still feel that, and different couples will have different things. Obviously, Rebecca's now kind of going down a path of getting a new career. She's passed her exams and stuff. But for me, for the last kind of 7-8 years, there's been that kind of, I need to hold up my career. We can't afford childcare for twins going to nursery for 5 days a week. So that, and Rebecca wouldn't earn that much to be able to afford that. There'd be no point putting them in. So there's always that consideration, always that kind of still on me to hold up this career, still on me to perform. And yeah, I feel like I'm coming out of it, which is good.
Yeah, but it is though. Like it's, yeah, it's a huge amount, and I think that's also there's also a modern problem now that I think women are facing, is exactly what you're talking about, where our mums, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, rightfully or wrongfully, that's not necessarily up for debate on this podcast. They stayed at home and they didn't work, and the dads went to work, right? The fathers went to work, and mums looked after the kids and they looked after the house, and they took that role essentially as for the team, right? They did that thing, whether it was suppression or patriarch or whatever else. It's not necessarily a discussion for this podcast. But now we want nicer houses, we want better lifestyles, and women go off to work, right? They go and, do their thing, rightfully, if that's what they want to do, have a career, whatnot. But there's a modern problem with that, right? Where every book you'll ever read, will always, like, with anything to do with, like, the things you want to do with your life or how to live a full life or blah, blah, blah. It probably includes something to do with family, probably includes something to do with children. And one of the best things you can do in your life is raise your kids and spend time with them and love them and cherish them and support them and help them. But one of you, and actually now 2 of you, have to go to work, and you have to burden, the earning capacity and the tiredness that comes with that, and the maintenance of, politics at work and hierarchical structures and doing well and performing well and all that kind of stuff, and come home and cook the dinner, and clean the house, and support the kids, and talk to your husband, and, talk to your wife, and, it's fucking hard.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot, the kind of modern day life that I guess there's what?
For a parent, modern day life for a parent, it's hard, man.
Yeah. And there's been a stark change if you look back in the 1970s and stuff. Like, it's not that long ago that it was quite clear in terms of roles and responsibilities for a home.
Yeah.
And now it's blurred.
But clear for some of the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that, looking after the home, looking after the children is an easy job. By no stretch is it an easy job. It's hard. It's hard work. Looking after Olivia all day long is not easy from whatsoever. But I'd also say that it's not easy trying to juggle both and trying to find a way to prioritize, like, to find your priorities in those. It's very difficult to be a jack of all trades. Yeah,
master of none.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're kind of in that situation because of house prices are higher, everything's more expensive. One salary doesn't cut it anymore.
Everybody wants a better life, Neil. Everyone wants to feel like they can afford the car, the nice watch, the nice house, the nice living standards, the Netflix subscription, the fancy holidays. We all want to do those things, right?
And do you think when they decide, let's both go back to work, let's both work full time and put our kids in care, do they think of the bigger picture? Do they think of the struggles it's going to be, or are they kind of very short sighted?
Does any parent think that work is more important than their kid? I don't think any parent.
I think they translate work into money, earning.
Sure, But I think if you literally ask that question, like which one is more important to you, your work or your family? Everyone's going to say family. But unfortunately, they have to work because they've kind of bedded themselves. Like financial freedom isn't just having more money, is it?
No.
Like financial freedom is also having no debt or less debt and flexibility, right, in your system. So it's like you can have both. Like I want to get to a point where if and when we have another baby, Laura's able to make a decision of what do I want to do? Do I want to stay home and be a stay-at-home mum, or do I want to continue my career in some way? How do I want to do that? Do I want to go part-time? Do I want to stay full-time? What's the situation I want to do with that? So there's a choice. And I think that's where if you're going to solve for something, you have to you have to work within that. It's a case of which one do you want it to be? And
what's the trade-offs?
I'll fill the gap. I'll try and do my best as part of this team to lean towards work more than, say, family at some point, if that's what it takes. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel a sense of like a reduction, like your health was out the window for a period of time? Like you prioritizing your own health? Like, did you feel like it was thrown out the window when kids came along?
I think if you're a new listener, probably not. But if you are, I've got twins and Isla, so I've been through the kind of birth process twice, and both times, I reckon for the first 18 months of them existing, just you don't have it. I think it needs to be a lower priority. I think it needs to kind of go on the back burner, because if you want to have a successful career, keep your boss happy, but then keep your wife happy, and then keep your kids happy, I think it's one of the things that just gives. And there's a bit of you see these Instagram fitness pros with newborn babies and stuff, and that's not reality. That's they're either paying for a maid or they've got support in the background, or I don't know what it is.
They don't have a job, Neil. Like, their job is to jump around on Instagram Reels, doing the latest TikTok dance. Like, that's not a job. You get to turn up whenever you want.
True.
You've got no KPIs. You've got no like reviews with your boss. You've got no firefighting. Your job is literally to have a 6-pack and look pretty for the internet. That's it. And that's not a job.
Yeah, we're going to.
It's all right, Neil. I can still hear you, so we don't need to see your pretty face. Yeah, it's definitely fallen off. Like, it's definitely lower than what it should be. There's a bunch of other stuff from my perspective, though. Like, I'm kind of like half and half in terms of how I sort of view my health pursuit. I think I'm kind of in the mix of, I think it's going to come back at some point, and I'm glad I did a bunch of stuff before now, but it feels good that I've done it prior to this, and I'm okay taking a bit of a sabbatical, I think is what my point I'm trying to make. But it does, again, it feels like I should be doing something, and I'm not, but I'm okay with it because it's kind of the stage in life. So yeah, I guess I'm balancing it from my perspective. You're all right, Neil. You struggling away with the podcast thing, or what you doing? All right, well, you don't need to see your pretty face. We've got the audio overall. And to be honest, though, to be fair, we're actually, I think we've done all right for tonight. Do you still want to keep going? Okay, you're right. Neil's going to be back in just a second. Again, this bloody Riverside. Like, sometimes I just wish it was better. It's such a good piece of software, but sometimes it just doesn't work like you want it to. Like, you want it to basically work perfectly, but half the time it's kind of like, it's okay. Sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes it's not. But yeah, I don't really know. It's for a piece of software, it's definitely the best one to use, but sometimes it doesn't work. It's a pain. Anyway, Neil's trying to rejoin, so we'll just wait until he comes back on. Always good fun listening to me chatting away. But yeah, if anyone is still listening, I am looking forward to Vegas tomorrow, I can tell you. I might play some blackjack, but gambling's not good. Always set a limit when you go gambling. That's definitely a good tip. Now, definitely talking absolute nonsense.
Now we're getting recorded. Yeah, let's sign off. That was a nightmare.
All right. Well, Neil, you're in charge of this one, so you take it away.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening, folks. I think I cut off for the last kind of couple of minutes, but hope you enjoyed that, and hope other dads resonated with the feelings that Gordon and I felt in the first few years of having a baby. You can find us on Instagram, Developing Dads, getting reels up. YouTube, I've managed to sort myself out, or sort Gordon out, one of the two, and we've got now, I think, scheduled up to the end of end of November. We've got videos going out, so lots of new episodes going in, which is nice. Yeah, give us a rating. I noticed we had 5 ratings on Apple Podcasts, and I think we're up to 10 on Spotify. So
wow,
if you're listening, give us a wee 5 stars. Would be nice. Share it with your friends, family, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening.
Just share it with all your friends and family. You know, no matter how old, young, whatever they are. You know, if they want two lovely
they might be a
Scottish
dad one
blokes.
day.
Maybe. But yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.